items were some of Bob's really meant a lot to him. This one over here was a firefighter helping, saving another firefighter. The middle one was very important because that was a replica of the Firefighter Memorial that's up by the State House. And this one is a firefighter saving a child. This is a flag my daughter Suzanne made for me for Mother's Day. And these were all of Bob's shirts.
This was my dad's original fire helmet from Watertown Fire Department. He retired as captain on Engine 1. And then when he retired, he continued as PFFM president, and he changed over his helmet to the PFF presidents.
This picture is the signing of the Cancer Presumption Bill. Over here in the corner is Kenny Donnelly. That's Bob. That's Governor Dukakis. And there is Mike Mullane.
Bobby's passion for firefighting and representing and fighting for firefighters, I think every bit of it came from where he grew up and the pride that he had in the Watertown Fire Department, the care that he had for the families of the Watertown Fire Department, and the struggles and the challenges that they faced his whole life.
He originally didn't care, wasn't taking the fire exam. He took it because his family, his father's a firefighter, his brother, number of uncles. And now he has cousins on the force, he has a nephew on the force. So he took it, he passed it. They held it open because it was Vietnam and he was in the Navy and he was still doing his service. So he had a year before he got out.
Bob and I worked together on the same shift. We started off in the Watertown Fire Department. And we had a lot of fun together, and we worked well together, and then Bob got transferred to another shift. Bobby was coming in nights, and he was working in the PFFM all day long, and I said to him, Bobby, do you want to go in the truck tonight instead of staying on the engine company? Bobby would never, he was on Engine 1, he wanted to stay on Engine 1, he would never slack off, you know what I mean? I was just trying to give him a little, because sometimes he was really tough. As Dottie said, some of the nights he was working. Work all day, come in at night, work the fire department, next day go in to the PFFM building.
So after he was hired as a Watertown firefighter, he quickly got involved in the union, knowing that they deserved to be treated better. And from that, with that passion that he brought, that was instilled in him through his life, watching the struggles that his father went through and the families that he grew up around went through, he translated that into positive change for firefighters throughout the Commonwealth, and quite frankly, well beyond that.
Today, we're going to make a statement. We're going to make a statement on the state of the fire service in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're going to make a statement on the state of this union. Be proud of wearing that red shirt. Be proud of wearing that helmet. Be proud of your union. This is a time to manage. This is a time to lead. This is a time to unite.
One of the great traits that Bob McCarthy had was showing up on your doorstep. If there was a problem in a local union, if there was a problem in a fire department, there was nothing to see Bob McCarthy come walking through the kitchen door and sit down at the table and discuss with the firefighters what was going on. Bob attended every picket line. Bob attended every informational meeting. It was amazing sometimes that he would stuff 26 hours into a 24-hour day just to help out firefighters who needed him.
Bob had that gift where you knew when he was talking to you, he was talking to you. He wasn't just talking to, anyone, any PFFM member. He had a way of talking to people to let them know that it mattered and that he knew kind of what they were feeling, and he got a sense of where everyone was coming from. You really have to have that tact and that skill to know how to deal with people, and he had it.
Since we last met, a lot has happened, and some of it not too good. Unions were formed not for the good times. Unions were formed for the bad times. To have that voice, to stand up collectively and articulate our concerns. So this is why we need to stay strong. This is why we need to be united. And we will prevail.
It was like he was your buddy. He was like always asking about your family, asking about your wife, and he had the ability to really connect with people on all different fronts. Whether you were the governor or you were a brand new kid on the job, Bob had the innate ability to interact and connect with everybody and make you feel like you were special to him.
Bob McCarthy was very persistent in his advocacy for firefighters across Massachusetts. And I say persistent because whenever there was legislation up on Beacon Hill that would have assisted firefighters, Bob was up there constantly lobbying on our behalf. And I would say he was dogged in his pursuit to get that legislation passed.
The legislation and the wins that he had is unprecedented, and the members, of the PFFM and across Massachusetts enjoy those benefits today. And if I had anything to say to the younger firefighters is, go back and look at, some of the things that he did during his administration. Heart and lung presumptive, the initial cancer presumptive, that we were able to add on for line of duty injuries with cancer. But the foundation was all Bob McCarthy and his team during that time.
I'd say the most important piece of legislation, and Bobby would probably agree with me, was passing the cancer bill. The cancer bill provided monetary protections for our members who died, for their families. It made it presumptive that the cancer that killed them was job-related. Prior to that legislation passing, a firefighter who died from job-related cancer, that family got nothing. That widow, possibly her children, they'd have to move in with their mother, their sister, or into the projects. You wind the clock back 40 years, getting that legislation passed in Massachusetts was cutting edge. And that's something that impacted, literally, unfortunately, over 1,000 families in Massachusetts.
Bob was a good leader because he was willing to take the slings and arrows that would be coming back at us for our persistence. He was like a lightning rod. He didn't want us to be the ones that were to blame if legislation didn't get passed or if some bad legislation did get passed. Bob took it upon himself to be accountable for the failures as well as the successes of our legislative efforts.
Bobby led during some very difficult times. In 1999, where we had 6 firefighters that were killed out in Worcester, Massachusetts, Bobby played a pivotal role leading in the wake of that devastating fire, where it took us weeks to recover the bodies of those 6 firefighters.
We were at a dinner, all firefighters, when the Worcester fire came, and they all just got up, and he immediately went down there to the Worcester fire. And then he came home to change his clothes, and then I didn't see him for a week. And my son, he was on the arson squad.
I spent 14 days there, he spent 8 days there. We never really saw each other. He was taking care of his firefighter family. I was doing the best I could with the investigation and respecting the fallen members. The last firefighter we found was Jackson. I was up on the deck, and I waited. The firefighters did their tribute. They left the deck. They found their last fallen brother. I was the last one coming down. I came down the ladder, and my father was standing there. And I just collapsed into his arms, and he's like, "Bob, I love you." And I'm like, "Dad, I love you." And even though I was older in life, I think it was the first time that we really bonded and came together, and it's been like that ever since.
It was very emotionally sad for him for what happened, but it made him so happy for 1 week out of both of their careers that they were able to work together. And that meant a lot to him.
And then just 2 years later, we had 9/11, where Bobby was down in New York City at Ground Zero, helping the UFA, the union in New York, and the UFOA, the other officers union in New York, deal with the fallout.
For the 2 intense months that we were there, day and night, under his leadership, and it was great to see his face. You'd be dog-tired. You'd be talking to hundreds of people, and around the corner would come Bob McCarthy. And it was like being home. Your big brother was standing there, your father was standing there, your uncle was standing there. But that was home. And he listened. And he listened for as long as it took until you felt better and you could move on.
And his leadership was really second to none. Everyone knows who Bobby McCarthy is throughout the IFF. He's a legend.
He wanted that memorial. I mean, he fought that with Melissa and the crew, but he fought for that. You know, they really, really wanted it, and I think they had to fight to have where it was.
I think when it first really, really became real was we were at the old PFFM office on Bowdoin Street. We were on the 6th floor, and you could look out and you saw them actually bring the bronze sculpture, drop it down into its spot. So it was 100 feet tall, and they just carefully brought it down and brought it into the ground. I think at that moment, you know, we were there, Bob was there, Ken Donnelly, and it just really started to take shape and said, well, this is really happening.
To get that memorial built and where it was built, at the State House, the site of Bob's, you know, some of his biggest victories were at the State House, and to have that being built on that land where everybody who goes to the State House can actually go out and take a visit to that impressive memorial is the crowning achievement, I believe, in Bob's legacy, that all firefighters across the Commonwealth have a go-to spot to, you know, think about the people who have unfortunately given the ultimate sacrifice, and that which is their life, to the communities they serve.
You know, in the fire service, we talk about families, and not only in the firehouse, our family, that's our extended family. Obviously, we have our own personal family life, and Bob opened up his family, his personal family, to us, the PFFM, and his family, Dottie and the kids and the grandkids are very much a part of our PFFM family.
He was, you know, big in stature, big in personality. And when you're a little kid growing up like I was, it's almost like he's 12 feet tall, you know what I mean? And, you know, obviously these last few months, it just really, you know, the impact he had on people, obviously in the firefighting world, I was well aware of the impact he's had on me and my family, but to see kind of that overarching impact that he really had, really eye-opening and really, really impactful on me, it means a lot.
When I think about my dad and his accomplishments, I mean, there's really so many of them. And like I have to say, I wasn't in tune to that. And I just, again, because he was just my dad. But for me, whenever I saw him, it was his passion. It was his passion. It's how he claimed the room. It's how people looked up to him. But it's also how he helped so many people. I remember just growing up and at like the family dinner table, we would get calls during dinner, and it might be the governor, it might be the senator, and he would just get on the phone and they came to him for advice. And to me, that was so profound and powerful because, again, to me, he was a firefighter, he was my dad, but he had so much passion, but people respected his opinion.
From my earliest days as a little boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, even younger, going to campaign events, I always remember, one, seeing firefighters there, and seeing Bob around, just like he was a member of our family.
Bobby's loyalty was to the mission of protecting firefighters morning, noon, and night without apology, and never wavered from it. Never looked for personal gain, always did what was right for the membership. And probably that's the greatest lesson he taught me, was the members always, always, always come first.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Governor! Give us that too! Governor! Give us that